business, and they both went to the same school. They both came off the same street, right? They both get the same license, licensing school. They both joined the same real estate company. One couldn't sell their house if their life depended on it. And one sells 15, 18, 20 deals in their first year. And like, that has baffled me for literally 31 years. And there's a lot of answers to that question, as Shmuel, as you know, like there's a lot of answers, but that's really not why we're here today. I think, for many of us, for context, Jill Biggs, who's in Hoboken, New Jersey, is a personal client of mine. I was, with her on a session yesterday. She's taken 35 listings so far in the month of May. I think many people want to know how she's doing it. Maybe we can talk about that. Or, my friends, throughout, Douglas Elliman, Corcoran, Compass, you name it, throughout New York City. Matt Rand is a personal client. If you guys know BH&G Rand Real Estate. I've known Marcia since, my goodness, she's like a second mom to me. I've known her for my entire life. The Ravis family are clients of mine. So I'm blessed that I get to work with a lot of amazing people. And of course, when you do that, in my world, everybody's open. Everybody shares, like, this is what's working. This is how my business continues to get better. And the thing that I like to talk about, and hopefully it'll resonate for you, is I don't believe that any one of us should reinvent the wheel. I think you need to know who you are. I think you need to understand your customer. I think you need to understand your customer psychology, like what makes them tick. You need to make them the hero of the business, them the hero of the transaction, not you. Right? You saying, hey, I'm number one. That's fantastic. If you've earned that, congratulations. It's all about the client. And at the end of the day, it's this whole thing in business and life. It's just a big test, right? The willingness to try new things. That's really what separates the best from the rest, right? The willingness to run it at the flagpole, try the email, shoot the video, do a podcast, do this, series that Shmuel, that you're doing, right? It's that willingness to try something new. That's ultimately one of the many things that makes people successful. So where do you want to go from here, my friend? Because I'm an open book. I'll share.
I love it. I love that intro. And to me, I could have booked you for 24 hours a day and still not even touch the iceberg of what's available. I would love, if you don't mind, Tom, just to, a lot of people here know you, and I've been flooded with comments about how this is, they've seen you live and they've learned so much from you. But maybe something that people don't know is a little bit about your upbringing and what led you down this path, and were you always a success?
I was at dinner, which, by the way, just being in a restaurant last Sunday night for my buddy's 50th birthday, it was just a blessing. I was telling a new friend of mine, someone that I've known but really didn't get to go deep with until just an intimate moment. He's like, Ferry, I see you're building on the freeway, and I made the mistake of clicking on one of your ads, and now you follow me everywhere I go on my phone. He's like, have you always been like this? And I was like, brother, I barely got out of high school. I was, kicked out of a couple and graduated with a GED. Figured out that I would go into leadership at about 6 years old, and it was I remember it as clear as day. And I've had this conversation with both my parents. When my parents decided to separate, I was sitting on my mom's bed. She hung up the phone. I'm 6. My older brother's 9. And she said, your dad is leaving us. And I remember watching my older brother, like we all respond to things differently. He starts crying, right? And I'm like, okay, well, I can cook dinner tonight. And I've never stopped from that. Like, I want to help. I want to contribute. But it wasn't always easy. I lived if you ever come to Southern California, specifically Newport Beach or Costa Mesa, there's a street called Center Street. And that's where my first apartment was. And, I take my kids by there. I have a 19 and almost 21-year-old son, and I'll drive them down that street. And, they're like, this is kind of heavy, Dad. Like, because it's still not a safe street to live on. But when I was there, there was 2 murders in the first 6 months. And, it didn't matter. Like, I needed a place to stay. That was better than sleeping on the beach, which I did for, several months before my brother called and said, want to come be a roommate with me. Look, we all have a story. Here's the difference, ready? When I was like 18 and a half, 19 years old, I got introduced to things like mentors and audio cassette programs and books. And it was like a simple twist of fate. I just recognized, and many of you know who my dad is, right? That he was out doing his thing, and he wasn't the person that the sort of the iconic legend that he's become over the last 45 years. He was a bootstrapping entrepreneur like all of us, right? And, he wasn't successful by any stretch, but I remember saying to him one day, hey, I think I want to join the family business. And he's like, do you even know what I do? And I'm like, yeah, you kind of get people fired up and motivate people. And I think I could do that too. And he just laughed, right? He had no idea. You know what he did? Here's a broom, go sweep the warehouse, ship out the audio cassettes, ship out the books, learn everything from the ground up. And I did it, right? And 9 years later, taking over his business when I was 22, 23, was able to grow it from a nice little family business doing, $3.5 million a year in revenue to almost $45 million a year in revenue. And when you do something like that, you all know, like, none of that was easy. It was 7 days a week, grinding, testing, trying, getting punched in the face, making every mistake, and then finally figuring out that there was simply, in all things business, plays we run that work, do them over and over and over and over and over and try and repeat and scale them. And then there's plays that you run that don't work. Think football, basketball, tennis, whatever, whatever sport you like or don't like, but right? And it wasn't that they didn't work. It was maybe I needed to tweak it. I needed to adjust it. The first time I sent out a direct mail piece, I was inspired by a mentor of mine, a guy named Jay Abraham, who is, I think when he stopped tracking, he was at $21 billion in sales in direct response marketing. Tony Robbins called him literally the greatest marketeer he'd ever met. And, Jay's been a friend of mine and a mentor for, a couple decades. And I remember him talking about the importance of direct mail and that direct mail works. And picture this, Shmuel, it's 1991. And I convinced my dad / the CEO of the company, we should do a direct mail campaign. All of you know direct mail works, except I said, I've got this concept. We're gonna make an offer. It's going to be in a letter form. There's going to be a couple sheets of testimonials. And like, we knew that way back then, long before Zillow reviews and Google reviews and everything else. And I did first class stamp, like on our company letterhead. And I mailed out 110,000 of them, thinking, God, if I just get a 2 or 3% return based upon the price. And I remember, like, it went out, and I sent it like on a Friday. So that's like the worst possible day to do direct mail, right? So, it's going to hit over the weekend. Agents are, not in their office, or they're in their office, or they're selling houses, doing open houses. And this piece goes out, and that's how many sales we made. 110,000. No, it wasn't as expensive to do direct mail, as it is today. But what we all figured out, I hope you have, we learn way more from our mistakes than we do from our victories. I have way more wealthy friends today in the real estate business because they learned in 2007, 8, 9, 10, when they got over leveraged, that maybe, just maybe next time they weren't going to do that. And we see that, nationwide. I know you guys were talking about forbearance as I was just jumping in. And yeah, there's 4 million people that, have pushed back their payments for a couple months. But the reality is, right now in the US, 42.1% of all homes in the US have zero mortgage. I think a lot of us learned that lesson. So, one of the questions I like to ask, and I know you're going to ask me some other questions, and I'm just kind of, just sharing here, is when COVID hit, whether you're looking at, was it 90 days ago, or was it, 7 weeks ago for you? I have clients in China, right? China, by the way, the sales in the top 10 cities in China are firing just like they did last November, December, right? Pretty remarkable right now. I've got clients in Italy, right? My buddy Dario, who runs, all of Remax for all of Italy there, right? They're now making the turn. And then you talk to people, in Philadelphia, one of my top clients there, right? That we all know that, Philadelphia was like, or really Eastern Pennsylvania was one of the last states, or the last state in the union to become essential as real estate. He was at 118 closed transactions by the end of March and only did 12 in April and May, but he still is committed to do 300 transactions, right? What we're seeing is the people that are in action are winning, and the people that are stuck are dying. So I hope today, if you're feeling slightly stuck, that I say something that gets you unstuck.
Tom, that is such a great frame for our conversation today, in the sense that you're giving that backdrop to your life and your path, and the fact that it was a lot of trial and error, and there's a lot of uphill and climbing and configuring and tweaking. And then you brought us into the crisis. And to me, I'd love to know your perspective on how does one, going through all the ups and downs, and I was telling people earlier before you joined that we've been doing this as a second generation company, and having survived the 2008 crash front and center. What's your advice on how somebody recession proofs their business? How do they make themselves economic proof? And what is the advice and guidance for that?
So the first thing is, you know this, I know this, like leading companies and having the blessing to be able to lead people, right? What we know is what great leaders do is they see things as they are. They don't make them better, right? They don't like, oh, Pollyanna, it's all going to be fine. But they also don't make them worse. And one of the big mistakes that I was watching, because I coach a lot of CEOs, the CEO of Home Services, the whole parent company for real estate, Matt Rand, who I mentioned, the Ravis brothers, and these huge companies. And what makes all of them great is they see things as they are, right? The number one thing that we do is we focus on data, not drama. Data, not drama. Like I don't watch a lot of news. I do have, hopefully at 1 o'clock today when SpaceX launches their rocket, I actually have that. I did have someone figure out how to make the TV work because I want to see that. But the reality is I look every day at a couple things, and I hope you do too. So if you're taking notes, you might want to write this down. Ready? Every good agent I talk to, every good agent, it's a mandatory discipline. Number one, they look inside their MLS to say what's selling, what's not, what's the new days on market, what price points are moving, what price points aren't moving, what's withdrawn, what's canceled, what's expired, why, right? What's selling very quickly, what isn't selling, what types of properties are selling. I was with a longtime friend, Mauricio Umansky, who started a company called The Agency, very successful, more $20 million transactions in the history of real estate than anybody else. And so we're chatting the other day, and he says, I'm like, okay, what's your daily discipline? He's like, Ferry, like every day I get inside the MLS, and that's the first thing you do. You dig through to figure out, like, are mid-century modern selling, or Tudors selling? Is it only large backyards? He's like, you have to be a lunatic about discovery to know the market inside and out. I'm like, right. Like, what's number two? He's like, showingtime.com. You all know showingtime.com. Like, it was something that I was watching every single day. I remember watching March 9th, Shmuel, like March 9th, and it just went like this. And it just fell off the deep end. And I suddenly overnight was saying, rut-row, first leading indicator is showings. Second one is open escrows, or pendings. Can't worry about closings. That's a lagging indicator. So, I knew it was going to be off substantially. And of course, no one knew it was going to be 20. And in some cases, like on the west side of LA, 50% off on closed transactions in the month of May, year over year. But we're seeing the open escrows really start to climb. So those are the first two data points, right? The third one that most people don't pay attention to, and I hope all of you out there do, Google Trends. So if you just type in Google Trends, it'll say, did you mean? And it's that one. And you can literally type in, you can go super micro and say, New Jersey, right? Homes for sale. How many people are looking or searching homes for sale on Google in New Jersey? One of the interesting discoveries, one of my personal clients, he was number 16 or 17 in the world last year on the teams list, a guy named Tim Smith, good agent, and $500 million in sales, but who's counting? Here's the deal. You ready? Tim, he and I were talking. He said, my sense, what I feel. And I said to him, buddy, you and I have been working together for 12 years. No one cares how you feel. The data is how we make good decisions. The data, ready? I said, what are you sensing? What are you feeling? He said, I'm sensing, because he lives near me, he says that people are going to want to live on the water or have a pool. He said, well, let's look at the data. We pull it up, we look, and I'm like, you're right. Both those things are spiking here in the California along the coast where he lives. So we were able to validate his sense and not get caught up in anything else. And then the last one, you guys know, is interest rates, right? Like following that on a daily basis. Those 4 data points, you know what it does? It paints the picture of the perfect storm. And I'm not taking anything away from my clients in Manhattan or in Jersey or in Italy or anywhere in the world where we've experienced loss and hardship. I was talking with one of my clients in Vegas where the unemployment right now is 35%. But that shouldn't shock you, because you think about Vegas, most of the people that live in Vegas work at a hotel or a casino, or it's a service industry game, right? So I'm very mindful of that. And here's what I know. Whoever takes the most listings wins right now. Period, end of story. Whoever takes the most listings coming out of this marketplace, and really for us, there's only US, right? Just kind of New York, New Jersey. So heads up, we're gonna have a pretty tumultuous political race that's gonna happen sometime around November. So I'm telling my clients, you have basically June, July, August, September, October to list and sell as much as you can, because the psychology of people in the US is going to go bonkers around October 15th forward. And what do we know in the Northeast? Sales drop by 9% in the fourth quarter anyway, right? So we're gonna have that natural drop off of 9%, but many are saying we could have another 15 to 20% drop off just because of sort of the polarization of what's happening in our country right now. So what I'm telling people is, you better work your face off right now. You better like go to your spouse and say, hey, look, I need permission. I got this much time to make as much as I can, set a very specific goal, right? If you don't have a spouse, your puppy, your kids, your friends, whatever, like get permission to go out and work, because you got 5 months where the flight to quality is going to be enormous, where the competition is basically gone. The cream is there. The cream is there, and they're going to be, they're going to be fighting, and they're going to be doing all the things they got to do like you are. But like the ones and twosy agents, they furloughed themselves 8 or 9 weeks ago. You with me? You got to work right now. You do that, and you do some of the smart things that hopefully we'll have time to talk about today. You're not going to do fine. You're going to do fantastic.
Those are great pieces of information and advice. And just to piggyback off what you were saying in terms of the political landscape and the end of the year, we also see from a mortgage perspective with interest rates, they become extremely volatile, extremely erratic at the end of the year, and during times of political uncertainty. So we're certainly going to see the same thing on the mortgage end, which is what we're telling people.
Yeah.
And you're talking about a little bit of a window. So that window includes the fact that, hopefully, God willing, tomorrow they'll come up with a vaccine or a cure. But assuming that they don't, we're talking about a window where we're going to have to pivot and work in a world that has become more remote, more virtual.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for your agents on how to become a master communicator in this environment?
Well, that's a big question. So a master communicator, how about let's go with a better communicator, because mastery is not achieved in a 30 or 40 minute webinar, nor in a day or week or a month. It's 10 years to master anything. So first of all, what I would do is I'd give myself a little honest assessment. The way I sort of view the world, I try and keep it very simple. Am I in dis-ease? Am I in wellness? Or am I in greatness? Dis-ease, like disease, bad, dis-ease, wellness, greatness, right? If that was the sort of ladder and I want to be in greatness, then I would say, let's write down the categories. Okay. Am I in disease, wellness, or greatness in my email marketing? I'd be honest about that. Then I would say in my social marketing and my social media communication, my ability to engage, to connect, to like, share, to be a part of the social fabric. Am I in dis-ease, wellness, or greatness? Now I lead with those two because they're free and everyone is there. So start there. Like if you're at disease in both those, what does it take to get to wellness? Well, you probably need an email service provider. Outlook and Google are not email service providers, right? There's 500 of them. Aweber is probably more advanced. Maybe you start with something like Happy Grasshopper, right? Constant Contact. There's many of these things by uploading them in and starting to intelligently communicate with your customers, right? So email, social. The thing I tell people is, what good agents are you following and modeling, seeing what it is that they're doing, looking at the comments and likes and the reaction, right? And then R&D, right? Rip off and duplicate, right? I mean, that's what all the best people do. Like nobody's got time to reinvent the wheel. We're all testing stuff, but we're testing based upon a hypothesis. I saw Shmuel do this. I thought it was really cool. I love the engagement. Let me do my version of it for my clients, my brand, my story, etc. So I would do that. Then I would ask myself honestly, dis-ease, wellness, greatness. How is my listing presentation right now? Like, could I take you, drop you off in a different city somewhere in the world and go on a listing presentation pitch, assuming like, you know how to read the comps and, we could take 5 minutes and you can look at the comps and say, okay, I get a sense of the market, right? Can I drop you off and say, go? And you're like, hi, thank you guys so much for having me over. Super excited. Can you build rapport? Can you reaffirm their motivation? Can you walk through the property if that's safe, right? Always being mindful of safety first. Can you then go into, hey, let's talk price, let's talk marketing, let's talk fees, let's talk next steps. Can you do that? Or, like as many people say to me, well, my presentation's really good. And I'm like, well, how many appointments did you go on last year? They're like, I don't know. I'm like, how many have you gone on so far this month? I've gone on one. I'm like, you don't have a good presentation if you've gone on one. You have a horrible presentation if you've gone on one. If you had a good presentation, if you had a great presentation, you'd want to go deliver it all the time. Like when they're like, hey, will you do this? I was like, of course I'll do this. Like, this is my sweet spot. I love connecting with people. Would I prefer that we were face to face? Of course. Would I want to high five you and give you an elbow? Of course. But this is the world today, right? So how's your listing presentation? Then I would ask you, how is your buyer consultation? And again, today we're doing all this through Zoom. How are you at the ability to say, hi guys, we're here on Zoom. Thanks so much for joining me. My outcome for today is I really want to understand your needs, what your lifestyle goals are, what's most important to you, what are the non-negotiables, and what are the things you absolutely want to avoid. And then I know you guys were saying you wanted to buy in the next 4, 5, 6 months, right? Research phase buyers. Let's really help me understand. And then what I'll do is I'll start opening up the MLS and Google, and I'll start showing you communities and really getting a little behind the scenes nitty gritty so you really understand what you can afford, what you want, what matches your criteria, and what your options are. And the agents that are at wellness right now in that area are killing it. The ones that are at greatness are slaying it. The people that are in a state of dis-ease there, I'm not comfortable getting on Zoom. I haven't really thought about, buyer presentations from the standpoint of delivering a degree of separation. Why should they work with me versus any other agent that they meet, right? So that would be my fourth one. And then I think if I had to say my fifth one, it's 2020, right? Just consider, like I was just texting back and forth with a buddy of mine. He introduced me to a guy named David on UHN. When I met him for the first time, it was 2007, it was June. And if you remember in 2007 in June, it was not the most exciting time because the whole world was just falling apart. And, I was fortunate enough, or maybe crazy enough, the year prior to join the golf club of my mentor. And so I wanted to spend time with him. It was just a great thing, right? And suddenly I could pretty much play golf any day I wanted. And I'm out there on the golf course, and long story short, I meet, I see my buddy Ed Park. He's like, Ed doesn't have a lot of personality. He's like, hey, you want to hang out with my buddy over here, David? I'm like, David, what are you doing? He's like, I work for Google. I was like, oh, big company. What do you do there? He goes, you ever been to the landing page? I was like, yes, I have. He said, I'm in charge of that. And I was like, David, let me grab your golf bag. You're going to ride with me, put his bag on my cart. And I made him drive because I had a yellow notepad, and I picked his brain for 4.5 hours. What about this? And what about that? And how do I do this? And how do I do that? And he finally stopped me. He said, look, Ferry, you're asking all the right questions. He said, but fundamentally your strategy is wrong. And I was like, now when the guy at Google in charge of the homepage says to you that the strategy you're currently on is wrong, what do you do? Do you go, oh, screw you, right? No, I'm like, tell me more. What do you recommend? Like, he's the Wizard of Oz. Like, tell me, right? I'll click my feet together. What do I got to do? And he says, you mentioned earlier, now get this, Shmuel, it's 2007. He goes, you mentioned earlier you were about to sign a deal with BlackBerry through the parent company RIM to distribute all of your audio, we didn't call it podcast back then, we called it audio messages exclusively through BlackBerry. He goes, that's a stupid idea. And I was like, I've been doing these messages and it's going really well. I mean, I've got, thousands of people listening and I'm really excited about it. He goes, those are stupid. We just bought a company called YouTube. Have you looked at it? I said, YouTube? Cat videos, Charlie bit my finger, the dance revolution guy. And I'm like, what do you mean? That stuff's stupid. He said, video is like the television, but we're going to get it on your phone and it's going to take over the world. I started my YouTube channel like a couple of days later. It was, early July. Now I have, 30 million views on it. And when people say, how'd you become number one? I'm like, YouTube. I gave all of my information away for free on YouTube, but only since 2007. So I'd ask you as the fifth one, how's your presentation, your communication on video? Disease, wellness, greatness. If you don't do any, it's disease, right? If you do it, but you only do it a little bit and you always feel wonky about it and you don't like it and you don't like how your hair looks and how you feel in the moment, is the lighting okay? And did I say the wrong thing? You're probably closer to disease. And what I would challenge you on is in today's day and age where, 2 weeks into COVID, there was only 10 million people on Zoom. There was 200 million people within a week. Now it's, whether it's Google Hangouts or this or Microsoft Teams, the reality is, my friends, this that we're on right now that I'm looking at, this is not going away anytime soon. This is the new norm. If you don't start working on this, right, you're basically going to be a little irrelevant, right, to the person that's like, hey, safety really matters to me. I've got someone, or I had a precondition, or I'm just not comfortable having a stranger over, or I'm not comfortable having people over at my house. This is the new norm. We've been forced into the digital transformation of our lives. Search to close, my friends. This is the game. So what do? You ready? Number one, you got to write out your presentation. You got to know what you're going to say, right? Look at, in case you're wondering, this is like every talk that I've done, just in the last couple of weeks. And I do this for a living. And you know what I still do? I still handwrite out my notes because there's something about, I'm going to talk about this, and then I want to share this, and then I'm going to do this, and then here's the process, and I hope I make them laugh. And, I'll write in there, ask them this question, ask, the people that maybe share something in the Q&A. Like, I think about my client. I think about my audience. I think about you, and I say what's important to them, and like, what are their pain points, and what are their concerns, and what are their worries, and how do I address it? And I think just the vast majority of people as influencers, right? Because that's really what you are as a salesperson, as a problem solver. Your ability to build rapport, to connect, to engage, to ask the right questions, to really have tremendous empathy right now, to know when it's the time to ask and know when it's not the right time, and know it because you know it, not just because you're fearful. Like, that's the game. So number one, write it all down. Okay. Number two, who are you modeling today? Who's your, not role model, but I think of the late, great Kobe Bryant, who I was super blessed to know the last couple of years of his life. We used to work out in the same gym. He and I and our trainers super early in the morning. And to have time with someone that operates at that level of greatness was, what a blessing, right? And he's gone way too fast. He modeled everything that Michael Jordan did. You all saw that on The Last Dance, and most of us, we knew that beforehand. What most people lack today is they're not saying, okay, she's got it going on. How does she think? How does she operate? What did she do in the beginning? What did she do in the middle? What were the mistakes she made? I want to see her present. What are her information? How does she show it? Like, I am only here because of the men and women that I was blessed to model and be mentored by, right? Like, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's a site called YouTube. Type in really good listing presentation and see what happens. You with me? And then the third element is you got to practice. You got to practice. So Shmuel, I have kids, right? My 19-year-old's a tennis player, and he started playing late, like at 8, when all the really good kids started at 2 or 3. But, I let him kind of do everything. He wanted to surf. He wanted to skate. He wanted to, play. He hated, football, right? But he finally finds tennis. And I said, look, buddy, the only way, because he kind of knew early, like, hey, I've got good footwork. I have pretty decent speed. Like, I think I could be good at this. And I was really around 10 or 11. Said, here's the deal, buddy. You got to practice 5-6 hours a day, because the people you're playing against, they're already 800, 900, 1,000 hours ahead of you. So like Elon Musk said, they're like, how did you become so successful? He said, the average executive works 60 hours a week. If I work 120, I get 2 years. They only get 1. If I do that 4 or 5 years in a row, I'm at a decade. They're only at 4 or 5 years. My son got that early. You with me? got into the university, started as a freshman. Tragically, it was this year and they were doing good and the season was over. Practice. Most people don't practice. They say they want to be great. Show me one person who is actually just born great. And what I will show you is a charlatan. Everybody that's great, practice. So I'd look at those 5 areas. I'd break down disease, wellness, greatness, and I'd be thoughtful. Wouldn't beat myself up. I'd say, okay, look, I've gone pretty far without practicing, without writing it down, without having a model. Now, what if I did? Man, I'm pretty good. I could really be extraordinary. And that's what I would focus on.
I love those tips. And first of all, I love the story with the BlackBerry, as I was a late holdout on BlackBerry. I didn't give up my BlackBerry for a long time. And to take the honest assessment and to know, look, it's important to learn from people, and it's important to take their advice and guidance and to quickly adapt to what is something that can improve myself is so invaluable. And I would say something that's a little bit more market specific that I'd love your perspective on with everybody. Right before you joined, I was talking about how real time, the MBA came out with a stat on the new home purchase application index. For the 6th week in a row, home mortgage purchases have increased and home purchases are now 9% higher than they were a year ago. That said, as I'm sure you know, inventory is extremely low, and there's a lack of inventory in the marketplace. What are your tips and suggestions that you're offering people, and also tips on maybe partnering, thinking out of the box, which you're so adept at doing, partnering with lenders or other business professionals to try to expand their business and get more listings?
So I'm going to give you 3, and I know we got to be mindful of time, so I hope you're all ready to write. And I looked down, I saw somebody posted a question. So Sharon Warner said, do you think direct mail still works today? What percentage of our budget would you say goes towards that marketing? So Sharon, it absolutely 1000% works. Email is spend a dollar, make 4,400, right? It's a 4,400, spend a dollar, make 44. It's a 4,400% ROI. Direct mail today, when done correctly, which means frequency, good headlines, not always asking, but giving value and offering and then asking. You could see as high as spend a dollar, make 12, spend a dollar, make 15. I've seen spend a dollar, make 300, right? So it's been really phenomenal. And the big reason why, not just during COVID, but even BC before COVID, is that most agents switched, entirely to this, and they forgot that we all still have mailboxes. Direct mail has been very strong for a lot of people. So here's 3 things. Ready? Number 1, how many homes are there in the US? You should know this number. It's 128 million, right? Now we know that 4 million have forbearance, but just remember, only 4 million have forbearance. So there's 128 million homes in the US. I don't want to misquote this number because I'm always blown away by it. Did you know that 22.7 million of them are owned by investors? 22.7. So it's 6 million by institutional investors, 16.7 million by people like us that own a duplex or 2 or 5 or 10, right? Non-institution. So my question for you is, recognizing that 42.7% of all homes in the country have no mortgage on them, and then a lot of people bought houses in 7, 8, 9, 10, and have seen nothing but extraordinary returns on their investments. My question is, when was the last time you marketed to the non-owner occupieds in your area? There's a lot of ways you can pull the data. Go to your title rep, right? Go to your tax records. If you have Remine, R-E-M-I-N-E, Remine will pull this data for you directly out of the MLS. And what we're seeing right now is a very simple direct mail piece, Sharon, but ideally a phone call. Got to be careful in New York, can't make those phone calls, right? So always follow the rules. Everybody always follow the rules. But what I would say to you is, recognizing that, I would basically send out a direct mail card. Now I would not send a postcard. I would send like a tiny little envelope, kind of looks like maybe someone's getting married. You with me on this? I'd have my 14-year-old hand address them, hand stamp, like lick and stick, old school, send out 50, send out 100 at a time. But here's the thing, you ready? I would put inside there, it's just a simple little letter, right, to the non-owner occupied. And you see, I got all my notes, so I got to find that exact page. Here it is, you ready? Dear name, I'm reaching out and inquiring about the investment property that you own on 1234 Banana Street. I'm curious with record prices and the election cycle coming, have you had any thoughts of trading up, trading down, 1031 exchanging into multifamily, or simply cashing out? I have buyers that are always interested in properties like this. Let me know if you'd like to chat. That's simple. Now, if you're in Jersey and you can call, then you call, right? Now, what if I tell you I have clients in La Jolla, California. My client, Maxine Gellich, 82 years old, right? 82, on the Wall Street Journal top 1,000 list. Been my client for 21 years, right? I remember when she got her first Social Security check and we laughed because that year she made $5 million selling houses. She's going after all of the non-owner occupieds, which for her, because she's in kind of a resorty, high-end kind of community, a lot of Texas, a lot of Arizona, a lot of Nevada, a lot of like, call it Vancouver, Alberta, up in Canada, that own these magnificent $1, $2, $3, $5, $8, $10, $15 million houses. And she's sending them letters. And guess what? Every time she sends a letter out, she gets 1 or 2 phone calls. She doesn't always get a listing, but the last one she got was a $10 million oceanfront. Was it worth sending the letter? I'd say yes. By the way, the guy owns the Padres, so that was also a really good connection for her. So that'd be the first one. Have you looked at all of the non-owner occupied specifically in your area and asked yourself, what are their concerns? What are their worries? What are their fears? Is it easy to rent houses right now? Is it challenging to rent houses right now? Have they had record appreciation, moderate appreciation? Could you help that person 1031 exchange into another unit, right? Or multiple units. So that'd be the first one. The second one though, this is, if you asked all my clients today, what has been the single greatest, ready, taking advantage of this moment in time, meaning the world of Zoom, taking advantage of this, 10 million to 200 million users in 2 weeks? I'll give you the fast version. In 1999, I was working with a woman. She was the #1 agent in the world for Century 21. Her name is Christina Martinez. And I helped her get there because we found a sweet spot for her and then we optimized it. We scaled it. Her sweet spot was find people that don't want to sell, that have lots of equity, that want to retire one day and believe in real estate the way we do. So they'd come to the office, 2 or 3 people at a time, and she'd say, you should sell that house. You should buy new construction because it's going to get greater appreciation, right? And it's going to last longer and be nicer. And we should take the balance of the equity and we should buy a duplex, triplex, fourplex. So she found non-motivated sellers. She wasn't saying, had any thoughts of selling? She was like, do you want to retire one day? We turned that into a 1,400 person seminar at the Fairmont in San Jose, right? So we didn't go, 2 or 3 people to 1,400, 2, 3, 5, 7, 8, 9. Okay, now let's let's get a little ballroom. Let's do it at a hotel. Maybe we have like 15, 18, 20, 30 people. But at her peak, when she was #1 in the world, that was it. So when this hit, I immediately said to all my clients, like on Pivot and Zoom, I'm like, look, listen to me. Everybody's home. Everybody's in a work from home environment. And every consumer, this has multiple questions. How's the market? Which means, how much is my home worth? And can I get a deal? Can I buy a house for 70 cents on the dollar? These are the questions. It's all wrapped up in how's the market, right? How much is my home worth? How much your home's worth? Is the world falling apart? They also want to know, and I think most of them have figured it out, but not all of them. Can it be done safely? Can it be done safely in this environment? And then the third one is what's going on with interest rates? Because most people don't know today that they can buy a house, they have relatively good credit, probably get something in the 2s, right? I mean, it's bananas, right? The money's, it's beyond cheap, but most people don't know it. And if you're not inviting people, ready, to a Zoom 30 to 40 minute session. Now, I'm going to tell you exactly what Jill Biggs, she's a Coldwell Banker agent, Hoboken, New Jersey. She did this last Thursday. So on Monday, she shot a Facebook Live to all of her friends and said, hey guys, it's Jill. A lot of people are asking me these questions like, how's the market? What's my home worth? Is now a good time to sell? Can I sell? What's everybody doing? Are we leaving the city? Where are we going? What's going on? So you know what? I'm going to do a 1-hour session. It's going to be Thursday at noon during lunch. Grab your food, come hang out with me. I'm going to answer the questions about how's the market, how do we do it, what's going on, everything you need to know. Just click the link below and I look forward to seeing you there. And she emailed her database. Then she notified all of her best leads. And when she set up the Zoom seminar, I'm sure you all know that on Zoom, when I'm building, I want to do a webinar, there's a button that says register. Register, which means when they hit that or you hit it, It means they can't get in unless they register. Tom and Kathy Ferry, here's my email, here's my cell. So this was last Thursday. Marketed on Monday. Thursday, she has 25 people on there. 25. She makes a nice little PowerPoint, right? I don't know which talk she did because I've given a couple headlines. Is it the 5 mistakes to avoid in selling during COVID? Is it the 7 misconceptions most people have about selling during COVID? Right? People learn more from mistakes 2.5 times more than the possibility and the pleasure. So you sort of play into their nervousness, their concern, and then you solve it. And guess what? She does it. Shmuel, she goes, I had 25, I had a coaching session with her on Tuesday. So today's Wednesday, right? I'm all screwed up because Monday was a holiday. She goes, I go, well, how was it? She goes, I finally did it. I'm like, how'd it go? She goes, I had 25 people on there. I'm like, did it work? She goes, I'm going to do one every week for the rest of my life. I was like, why? She goes, well, I took 3 listings already from it. And I got 5 people that I've already had one-on-one conversations because I followed up on everybody because I got all their information. 3 I've already listed. 3 I've already listed. 3 she'd already listed. And 5, hey, well, I need you to repair this. Let's get that done. Let's clean this up. Let's get the home prepared to sell. And we'll put it on the market in 2 weeks, 30 days, etc. 8 out of 25. My client, Dave Robles here in LA, he heard the idea because I was talking buyers in the beginning, right? Which, you know, Shmuel, you can help them do the buy side. That would be killer, right? Like bring in your lender partner because you all know, like they'll tell you, oh, my FICO score is 950. Like I'm off the charts. Then they meet the lender like, oh, my FICO score is 4, right? Like they're always a little more honest with the lenders.
Sure.
So check it out. Dave Robles does it. He's on the west side of LA. Average sales price, you know, 2.5 million. He has 78 people register. Only 36 people showed up. Midway through, he says, by the way, I know a lot of you you'll want to go deeper. You'll want to ask specific questions. You know, why don't you just email me? You know, here's my email. And he puts it in the chat so people can see it. Or you can text me because I'm here to serve. And he said, Tom, I did a direct mail piece to my entire farm. I boosted it on Facebook. He said, half the people weren't in my database. I had no idea who they were. He said midway through, he didn't see it because he's presenting. He looks down at his phone. It's like, oh, hi, Dave. Enjoying your seminar. This is super informative. We were on the market, but the agent took it off the market and said they couldn't sell it. You're clearly selling a lot of houses. Please come list our $3 million house. Dave's he's going to show us the exact training June 1st or 2nd on all my Pivot friends out there. If you guys are with us on Pivot, like that, here's my presentation. This is exactly how I do it. And well, he's not like the razzmatazz presenter. He's a normal dude who's selling real estate, married, kids, life, you know, doesn't drink, you know, hey, this is what's going on. These are the mistakes you want to avoid. And he's got enough charisma to, you know what it is? It's your vibe attracts your tribe. That's all it is, right? So his vibe attracts his tribe. You're not going to get everybody. I'm not going to get everybody. That's the world. So that's the second one. But the third one is probably the easiest. What if again, I go back to those questions. What's on the mind of my clients? How much is my home worth? How's the market? You know, what's going on? What are people doing? You know, are homes selling? Are they not selling? Are prices dropping by 25 or 30%? Is this time like 2007, 8, 9? Everybody assumes that. I'm sitting with my brother-in-law's girlfriend at my house on Memorial Day. And she's like, how's the real estate market, Tom? Like, are your clients just dying? And I said, like, what do you mean, Lauren? Why do you ask? She goes, well, I mean, home prices, what? They got to be down 20, 30%? This is a smart woman that owns her own business. I'm like, Lauren, what the hell are you talking about? She goes, well, you know, the economy's bad. And I heard the economy's off by like 20 or 30 points. I go, yeah, the second quarter GDP is going to drop by 30%. I go, and then every bank has said it's going to race back and go up 14 to 15% higher, which means we're going to have the greatest recovery we've ever seen in our lives. I said, why would you think a home price? Well, in 2008, my home went to, I was like, oh, I said, see, that was a mortgage and real estate crisis that became a global economic meltdown. We're in a health crisis that's become an economic crisis, and housing is going to bring us out of it. She's like, really? Like, housing is 17% of the GDP. Now imagine if you were her agent and you sent her a video, an email, a text, and said, hey, Lauren, all my clients are asking me 3 questions. How's the market? How much is my home worth? You know, what's going on in the economy? How's this impacting housing? So I'm scheduling 15 to 20 minute Zoom sessions with all the people that I know and love and respect to answer those questions so you get it personally and direct from me inside the MLS and more. So click the link below, schedule the time that works for you. I'm doing it Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 10 until 12:30 every day. Let me know what day is better for you. And all of my clients that are doing this right now, heads up, if you have like 4,000 people in your database, do not send that email, because with an open rate of 30%, that's like 1,200 people. And I would guess 40 to 50% of them are going to say yes, which means you're suddenly going to have 400 people that you need to do this for. Start a little easier, send 50 at a time, send 80 at a time, test it, tweak it. Don't do what I did with the direct mail piece. Don't do that. Test it. And then what do you deliver when you're there? What do you deliver? Hey, Shmuel, thank you so much. Super excited, man. Like, I know you got a lot of questions and we got 15 or 20 minutes. First of all, how you doing? How's the fam? Be human, right? How you guys doing? How's the fam? What's going on? Now, remember, the only people that will say yes to this are people that are just, hey, my home is really important to me. How much is it worth? And research phase sellers. Research phase sellers. We're selling when the kids graduate from high school. We're selling when the da-da-da. Hey, I want my in-laws to move in with me. They're down in Florida. I want them up here. We need to buy a bigger house. They're in that conversation. So they don't want to be pitched. They want to be educated. So let me explain what's going on. Here's where we were this time last year. Here's the numbers for February, March, April, May, showingtime.com. Here's a bunch of stats from KCM, Keeping Current Matters, which you guys all know. Here's what the smartest people are saying about the recovery. Here's what the smartest people are saying about unemployment. This is what's happening. And most importantly, let's look at the data of what homes are selling for and what your home is worth if you decided to put it on the market. Here it is, ta-da. Now, what questions you guys have? Wow, we really thought it might be worth more. We're not sure. What do you think? If we sold it, well, what do you guys owe on it? Oh God, we only owe like 80,000. Okay, so you got $300,000 in equity. What were you guys thinking about doing that? Well, we want to buy a bigger house. Well, tell me more about that. So don't book 15 minutes back to back. Every one of these needs to be booked for like 30 minutes. 30 minutes, because your clients, they're going to want to talk and they're going to ask questions. So here's what I would say to you, because I've gone over on time. Pick one. Is it non-owner occupieds? Is it seminars for your sellers? Which, by the way, like please write in your notes. Done is way better than perfect. Done is better than perfect. Jill's like, I'm like, how'd it go? She goes, I did okay. I'll do better next time. And then I'll do better the next time. And then I'll do better the next time and the next time. And it'll just get better and better and better and better. Disease, wellness, greatness. Everything takes time, always requires practice, always, tweaking and adjusting, and you'll do the same. But pick one and then get into action. And then I would say, without him knowing, see this guy over here? He's providing a lot of value right now. So the other thing I would do is I'd send an email to your entire database saying, if your interest rate on your home starts with a 4, I CC'd my buddy, he can get you probably into the 2s, worst case, really low 3s. One of the ways that we will help the economy is get people to do refis to lower their payments, giving them more buying power. This isn't a refi pitch. This is common sense, right? The number of people I talk to, I'm like, what's your interest rate? They're like, I haven't looked in a while. I'm like, if you haven't looked in a while, it's probably 3.75. It's probably 3.6, right? And what's available today is bananas. We are in the business of delivering value to our customers. And our model of the world of value is their house and their finances and making it a home and making sure that they know that you're the resource for anything that's related to that. Need a handyman? I got you covered. Thinking about, decorating? I got you covered. Like anything housing, that's your world. And their mortgage is a big part of that. So that'd be my request, right? For this handsome guy bringing me in today and spending time with all of you. One last thing, and then I got to bounce. If I can help, my cell phone, you guys ready? It's 949-216-5466. 949-216-5466. If I can help, send me a text. I get a lot of texts, so I won't respond like instantaneously like we do with like normal stuff, right? But I get a lot of texts and I respond and I shoot videos. And when people say, is this really Tom Ferry? It's usually I'm like, what's up, Shmuel? This is me. And I mess with you. So I'm here to help. If I could be of service, please let me know. All right. My friend, I got to bounce. So
You've been so generous. Thank you so much. It's a wealth of information, such value. I already have people messaging me. They can't write fast enough. Thank you so much.
I do talk fast, but come on, man. We're on the East Coast, like New York or New Jersey. Let's go, baby. All right. Love you guys. All the best. Send me a text. And Shmuel, thank you again for doing what you're doing. Keep up the good work, man.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you so
Take
much.
care, guys.
Well, stay safe. And with that, I want to thank everybody for attending, and I want to thank you for your time. You know, you're not here to see me. So with that, I'm going to conclude and say thank you. Be safe. If I can be of any assistance to you, aligning you with the referral sources, with business, helping people with interest rates and other professionals who can help you continue to succeed in your business and continue to become masters of your industry. I welcome the opportunity, and I love working with each of you, and continue to stay safe, be well, and be as productive as you can be. Thank you so much. God bless.